Sturdy for 30 this week, we have a very special guest, a friend of mine who has been covering the Illini since the turn of the century. That's 20th century. It wasn't the 19th. He wasn't there then, but close. But he's also a Hall of Famer, so this is special. So now he's a Hall of Famer, and that's Loren Tate. Loren Tate, tell me about being a Hall of Famer now. How's that feel?
Well, I would tell you that I've lived long enough that they finally got around to me, but I think they just ran out of everybody else. But I was sitting, I actually was sitting with my wife, and we were just getting ready to watch a TV show, and the phone rang. It was Malcolm Moran calling to tell me this, and I was stunned. I didn't know that my name was even up. And as it turned out later, I talked to Bob Hamill and said, well, they've been skipping over you for 20 years. So this was my year to make it. And I'm really thrilled to be on there with people like Dana O'Neill and others that, are really heavyweights. And at least they got one lightweight in with the heavyweights. That's all.
Hey, everybody has a role, right? I mean, lightweight, heavyweight, it's all good. It's all good. So, no, obviously you've had a great career in covering Illinois athletics, and what is, as you look back, I mean, it's got to kind of give you you reminisce a little bit about the history and with the Illinois athletics. And what do you think back to?
Look, like you, at one time, you won't believe this, at one time I was just a jock. I played baseball till I was 35, 36 years old, and I came to Illinois at that time. In fact, 2 days before I arrived in Champaign, I was in the National Baseball Congress World Series in Omaha, and I took a train all the way from Omaha back and started my work on a Saturday in Champaign. So the idea, and I've said this before, the idea of writing anything negative about Illinois never occurred to me because, I tried out for the baseball team here and I tried out for the basketball team. I won numerals in both those as a freshman and then got cut as a sophomore and as a junior in baseball. So, I thought of myself as I was just enjoying playing athletics and writing about athletics, and it just seemed like a natural thing to do. My dad was in the newspaper business over in Monticello. He owned the Piatt County Republican. So that's where I get my conservative roots. And so, I just combined journalism with sports. And the first thing that happened was the slush fund scandal in December of the very year that I was hired. I hired in September, and the slush fund hit in December. And all of a sudden, I ceased to be to be able to write favorable things. There was nothing favorable about the slush fund. And we had a lot of problems over the years, all the way up through Stoner and others, that kind of changed my perspective on how I had to be, what kind of a sports writer I had to be.
And obviously, team success, both of us have gone through, we've seen some teams that are wildly successful we've got to cover. And we've seen some that have been pretty bad. And so we kind of go through that historically. You've had even longer, you've gone through scandals to, Final Fours to, maybe, football team going to the Rose Bowl, all those things. And yet, what's it like? How do you have to adjust as you're going through that?
I think that the thing that caused me to adjust was the initial getting hit in the face with the slush fund right away. And at that time, Harry Combs was a very dear friend of mine and the family, and he was from Monticello, and I played golf with Harry when I was in high school. And I'll never forget, I met Harry in his brother's pool hall in Monticello when I was getting ready to come to the University of Illinois, and Harry said, look, he said, if you want to play basketball, you need to go to Eastern. He's just, I think he let me beat. I was a better pool player than Harry, and I let him beat me. But anyway, we kind of settled that. But I wanted to come anyway, and I did. But I knew my situation was, I wasn't going to get a play. But I did. I spent some time on the court with the players and got to know them all. And my roommate my freshman year was Don Sunderledge, who was MVP of the Big Ten that year. And I was steeped in Illini culture, cheap Illini, everything. I had to adjust my thinking, and it's never been fun to write negative things about Illinois, but you have to be honest, and I try to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. It sometimes doesn't, you don't like doing it, but sometimes you just have to, because that's the way things have worked out. We've gone through, we're in the middle of a basketball season. You and I were one of the maybe 100 people who were in the State Farm Center Friday night, maybe
190. There's a record.
190
190
record attendance. So we were there. What were your thoughts on the game Friday? It was a really fun game to watch. I mean, and I know Illinois won, so we look at it better, but it was a fun game.
Well, it's a couple of things jump out at me. Number one, it seemed like Illinois had its back to the wall. And when you have your back to the wall, everybody played up to his ability. In other words, this has been, in my mind, in some games, almost a two-man team with Io and Kofi. And in this game, we got a tremendous performance, by far the best performance since his sophomore year out of Frazier. And I thought that Curbelo played well, and I thought Granison played well. And what you got was a balance and what Underwood called connectivity that carried this team through. And it took some great play, you know, a couple turnovers and made free throws late in the game to pull it out. But I don't necessarily think Illinois is a better basketball team than Iowa. I think Iowa's got a much more stronger offensive unit. But Illinois played really good defense and just did what they had to do to win the game. And now, you know, you face that old situation of going against Indiana and then Wisconsin and then Michigan, assuming they'll be back on the 11th. And so you win one game in the Big Ten this year, and you just don't want to let that affect the next week.
Yeah, and I was actually writing about that as well. Like, you can't have a letdown. You go to Indiana and you've got to bring that same energy, because Indiana is still, they're dangerous, and we know Wisconsin's dangerous, and obviously Michigan's really good if they can play. How do you think the layoff? Do you think the layoff had any effect on either one of those teams last night? I saw two teams that seemed to be ready to play, but I didn't see a layoff. But I've seen Michigan State look like they've never played basketball before, so I guess everybody's a little bit different.
Yeah, I just watched Michigan State play again today against Ohio State, and they're just not very good. I mean, I don't know what else to say it. I mean, they've won 2 Big Ten games, and I don't see right now, I don't think they're in the NCAA tournament at the rate they're going. I don't know how they just didn't replace either their point guard or their big guy, Tillman. And, and Cassius Winston was such a force, and Tillman was such a great player in the middle. And then they just haven't replaced those two. And this is not I think we just expect automatically for Izzo to have a great team every year, and this year they don't.
Have you seen, you've covered obviously the Big Ten for a long time. Do you remember it being this strong top to bottom? I mean, I remember years when we maybe there was like 3 teams that make the Final Four back in the 80s or something. But have we had the depth that we've had in the league this year? I mean, it's pretty astonishing to me how, 11, 12 teams still on the NCAA tournament grid.
On one hand, the bottom middle is much stronger, but I will tell you, there were more NBA players in 1989 than there are this year, because we don't have any NBA players other than Io. I mean, I don't even think Garza's going to go in the first round. Back in those days in 89, we had a whole series of players that were of that quality, and Iowa was really good, and Indiana was good, and Purdue was good, and Illinois was really good. And I don't know. There was more. I think the top, if you just took the top 5 or 6 teams, I think the 89 season was stronger, but now you've got more depth through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, they were older too. Guys stuck around in college longer. And
point.
Yeah, so
that's a huge, the teams that are successful now are the ones where the players didn't turn pro, like Io and Kofi didn't turn pro. They stayed. But players on other teams have been leaving. And I don't think, we always do this too early projection for the next season, but you just don't know anything about the next season until you see who's coming back. And by the way, who transfers? Yeah. Just think how much easier it is to transfer today than it was a year. Back in the late 80s and the 90s, you had to sit out a year every time. Well, that would slow you down about making a decision. You'd stick around where you are rather than have to sit out a year.
Today, and it sounds like we're going to have free transfers this year, and so guys can just go play wherever they want, don't have to sit out a year. And is that going to be? I mean, are we going to see how we get like 700 college basketball transfers a year now? Is there going to be more? I mean, can there be more? I don't know.
Oh yeah, Oh, it's going to go over. Now, football's already gone over 2,000. I think by next year it'll go over 3,000. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, it's
I mean,
crazy.
it's just, I don't think that, I think that everybody's got his own concerns about his own life, and there isn't much loyalty to the university that I felt back when I was in school, that all the players on our team were guys that were connected with the university for the rest of their lives, that they loved the university when they were here, and they came back on a regular basis. We don't have that now. We just don't have enough players coming back, and and particularly those who come from out of state and those who transfer in, they're here and they're gone.
You've obviously had some great, memories covering Illinois basketball and Illinois football and these things. Do you have any, what stands out? Like, if you look back and what is the thing? I mean, you mentioned the slush fund. What's a positive thing like that was probably the most fun you've had covering over the past, how many years have been? How many years?
Well, I came here in the fall of '66. So the first year that I covered Illinois was '66, '67, but I was attending games long before that. Of course, I attended games before I even came to college. So I go back to the 40s, 1940s. I came to Illinois games in the 1940s. I came to Illinois football games. I remember in 1946, I attended the home games that year. And my dad, as I said, ran the paper, and he had a connection with coaches over here and played ball with he had played ball with a lot of people like Harry Combs. And so it wasn't difficult for us to get tickets. He had an in. And of course, I took advantage of that in some cases. But I think that my feelings would be a little different than most people, because I've been around so long, and I was so affected when I was like a classmate of, not a classmate, but in school with Don Sunderledge, and followed that team so close and knew all the players so well that meant so much to me. I mean, Breed Armor Morris were good close friends of mine when they, and Big Peterson went to Monticello with me. He was the center on the team, and he and I ran around together there early for a while. So I have it's different when you really know people. Now the '89 team, of course, the '88 and '89 teams were tremendous to cover, and then of course the 2005 team was that was an enormous thrill to be able to follow those guys all the way to the state championship game.
As you kind of look at you've seen a lot of coaching changes over the years. Some because guys left, we had some guys leave, and then we've had some guys that have had to been fired, and we're going through a football coaching change right now. Now, I'm not as seasoned, but I would say that Brett Bielema has probably done about as good a job with the message here and the marketing of his hire as any coach that they've hired over the past 20 years for me.
No, he's by far the best in the press conference, and in taking the approach he has, particularly with the high school coaches, particularly in the lineup of assistant coaches he's brought in. This is very encouraging at a time when we certainly need it, and he's much more friendly to the media than Lovey was. I mean, you always had the feeling of Lovey when he went to a press conference trying to remember all the things he didn't want to tell us. And and I don't see that. Up to this point, this is the most encouraging for me. Way more since Mike White. Moeller just didn't want to have much to do with us. I mean, he was from the Schimbeckler school, and he shut us out. That was the first time that I remember really being shut out from knowing what was going on internally. I mean, when just imagine this, Brad. My first year, I was close friends with Pete Elliott. Before I was his contact guy for recruiting in Northwest Indiana before I came down here. That's how deeply I was secretary for the Illini Club, whatever secretary means. And with Lou Boudreau and the people that we had in our club at that time, and Ray Elliott would come to speak to us, and then of course Pete. And the first when they had a practice or a game, I would walk in the locker room while they're showering, and I'd talk to the guys, and they'd go in the shower, and then they'd come out, and I'd talk to them, and I'd talk to Pete and talk to the assistant. I mean, it was just wide open. And all of a sudden Moeller got here, and all that changed, and I really felt shut out.
Yeah, it's tough, and we go through a time period where sometimes coaches are a little bit. They feel like you got to make sure you're kind of you're with them. I think, nowadays they don't want to be that, they don't want to get negative press as we go through it. Is there so Bielema has done a fantastic job. I think Underwood's, started off a little slow with those first 2 years. You feel like he's been the right guy to right the ship here in basketball? Obviously they're there this year, but
I do. I think Underwood's the right guy. I think that he's, I'm very positive about his program, and I know he had a really rough start and things didn't work out with Mark Smith, and that really turned to E.J. Liddell and others like St. Louis, and of course Tillman got away, and the St. Louis thing collapsed on us. Had that not happened, had we been able to stay with that St. Louis group, Illinois would really be good, because you saw, E.J. Liddell got another 20 today for Ohio State. Well, if he was getting 15 or 20 for Illinois at that position, where Illinois is not getting much scoring, until they put Granderson in, and he's a little better, but he's no E.J. Tillman.
Right. Yeah, he's different. He's a nice player. I think that move has been good for Illinois, putting Granderson in there, but he's not E.J. Liddell. So as we go through, so 2020, we look back at 2020, and we're gonna have, you've been through a lot of years, and I don't think we've ever seen a year like this. And, with the pandemic and being, not having sports for so long, we also lost some, guys that were really close to you, I know, and Lou being one of them, Lou Henson. And do you have any great Lou Henson? I know you have so many Lou Henson memories. Give me some great Lou Henson stories or memories for.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that, but the things I think about is Lou is, he was pretty strict with the players, and everybody thinks of Lou as a really friendly guy, but he was really tough on the players. I'll never forget, we were out east playing in the NIT, or I don't know if it was an early NCAA game. I can't even remember what the game was, but we were on the East Coast, and Big George Montgomery got hurt. He couldn't play, so they invited me over to dinner with the team, and we all sat down, and I might have had a beer. I don't know. I might have had, I sometimes drink one beer at a dinner, and I looked up, and George ordered a hard drink, and he wasn't playing. He said, "Well, might as well have a drink." And Lou found out about it. Boy, he just threw a fit right away. That was really funny. George thought, "Well, what the heck? I'm not playing. I'll just have a drink." I don't remember what it was. Some kind of hard liquor. Yeah. But and I remember the time that Lou called that. Lou was trying to run a clean program and doing the very best he could, and he heard that Altenberger was down south in Robinson or someplace playing golf. It wasn't Robinson, but it was a town in the south, and he sent Dick Nagy down there to bring him back because he was afraid they'd give him something free down there. And so Altenberger had to get in the car, didn't really play golf, and had to come back. There were a lot of things like that happen, but Lou was such a good guy, and I wrote some things, that weren't necessarily favorable to him along the way when they had bad things happen. And I just stayed away from him for a day or two. I just made a point of not going near him until a couple of days had gone by. And by that time he'd forgotten about it and I'd forgotten about it, and we just went ahead. And so when he retired, then we became really close friends.
Yeah, he's just a wonderful human being. And I got to come to a couple practices back in the day, and people had, seemed like he was really, nice guy, but yeah, you're right. Exactly. He was tough on those guys. I mean, he put them through the paces in those practices. There's no question.
I can't tell you anything that I haven't said before, because, all these stories kind of keep coming up, but Lex and I went with Mary and Lou downtown one time, and we parked, and he had to walk down Neal Street by all those restaurants that had chairs out on the street side there. And I never forget, we decided we were going to walk to, maybe we were going around to the Esquire, I don't know. And we started walking, and all of a sudden the word just shot through that crowd that Lou Henson was there. And every table, and this, I'm talking about 20 or 25 tables along the way, he stopped at everyone and they all thought they knew him firsthand. That was the way he treated everybody. He loved that. And so many coaches, and I think that Lovey is like that. Lovey was like that. I don't think he wanted to be around a lot of people. I think that he would rather not. But Lou just loved being around people. And he, when he played golf, he played with just, he wasn't looking for somebody that was going to give a donation or anything like that. He just played with the regular guys. And that's the way he was. When we went to the Final Four in 1989, and Digger Phelps and Bob Knight and all those guys were there the day before the thing started, and they were having this big event in this kind of a ballroom there with a bunch of coaches, and they said, "Where's Lou?" And I looked at him, and Lou was sitting with some guy that looked like he was about as old as me now, and had a big red nose, and and he and Lou were talking intently, and I said, "Lou, who was that?" He says, "That guy loaned me a car when I was at Hardin Simmons." And he's sitting with him rather than sitting with the coaches. That's just the kind of guy he was.
Yeah, he's just amazing man. So so as we go, now you mentioned golf, and you were a good golfer. Are you still a good golfer?
That's good. I wouldn't say it was good. I wouldn't say it was good. I was average. Give me average.
No?
I wasn't near as good as I wanted to be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's true for all of us. But are you still shooting your age? Can you shoot your age still?
Well, yes and no. Yeah, I had some good rounds this summer, but on my 89th birthday, I shot 90. I was trying to shoot my age and shot one over, but I had some rounds in the 80s this year.
It's funny. I was actually talking. I told Jay Price, who used to be in Illinois, I was talking to him today, and I told him I was talking to you today for a Sturdy for 30, and he said, "Yeah, I remember he told me, talking about your golf game, and he said you told him one time you shot your age." And of course, this was like 12 years ago, so it was like 80 or 78 or whatever. It was like a while back. And he said he looked at you and said, "Loren, 90 is not that good." And so that was a few years back. So no, you obviously.
Well, I tell you, I had a really hot day. Excuse me. When I was 72, I shot 72. That's the best I ever did. I mean, that's the lowest score I ever had, was a 72. I did that a couple of times, but I never shot below 72.
Wow, that's fantastic. At 72. So if I shoot my age right now, that'd be really good. So I may have to stop at like 10 holes. But no, hey, obviously.
Well, I didn't tell you the other 50. So go ahead.
No, I just want to congratulate you on just what's been a fantastic career covering Illinois athletics. You are, we often call you Mr. Illini and things. I mean, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the past 17, 18 years covering the team. So I just wanted to let you know how much we appreciate you and tell you congratulations here from all of us.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate it. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'm just glad I stuck around for it.
Well, hey, sometimes that's it. You're like that guy that makes the Hall of Fame because he played 25 years, right? So you got, only needed 100 hits a year, right? So
you're not comparing me with Aaron, are you?
Well, so you can go with that. You can go. So, hey, I told Lucas Johnson he was a former star player the other day, and he's my friend now. So that's all it took. So it's a.
Hey, I saw Lucas Johnson with his wife. I never met her before, and I turned to her and I said, when he was in school, I covered every foul he made.
and his wife actually played college basketball at DePaul. So so they got some good genes there. So yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on, Loren. Appreciate you talking to us. And again, congratulations on being named to the Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. And we will see you this week. We got Indiana and Wisconsin, so we'll catch up with you then.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
All right. Sturdy for 30, signing off. Loren Tate was our guest this week. Thanks and congratulations to Loren.